After the first 3 Spacelab missions were controlled from the JSC POC, a planned increase in Spacelab missions, in addition to an increased workload at Houston's Mission Control, dictated an increase in NASA's capabilities. Marshall won a competition among NASA centers to provide a new and more capable Spacelab POC within a year from the decision and within a tightly constrained budget. The HOSC was expanded to incorporate both floors of A Wing and part of M Wing.
An innovative data system called the Peripheral Processor System, or PPS, was developed using the latest mini-computer technology in providing unprecedented flexibility to the users. We also added a high data rate system to process the unique 50 megabit per second data stream from the Spacelab. The high data rate system was a technology advance over the system in the JSC POC, which provided additional capability at lower cost.
On Spacelab, we went to workstations instead of going with the big mainframe computers. Now that was a big step, but that wasn't a technology issue, in my opinion. It was just the right step to take, the right way to do a design, and to keep costs within bounds.
Another innovation was the Operations Management Information System, which was an automated computer-based system for handling change requests and planning and action items among the staff in the POC. It replaced a paper-based system that was used in the JSC POC.
The Marshall POC development was accomplished on schedule and within cost, and simulations for the Astro 1 mission began. However, another mission was scheduled to go first.
Well, it was a normal type support. We came in early. I personally thought it would be scrubbed because it was so cold.
Obviously a major malfunction.
Well, it was deathly quiet. It was really a tough go. So then immediately we have a procedure for failure at the HOSC. We immediately confiscated all the records and compiled them all and put the HOSC under full guard, make sure nobody took any data out of there. And then of course the investigation team, the HOSC was their headquarters.
In the coming months, Marshall's engineers worked feverishly to understand what had happened.
2, 1.
The world watched as America returned to flight.
Americans return to space as Discovery clears the tower.
But no one, anywhere, was looking on more intently than the engineers in the HOSC. Tommy Rankin led the payload control team for the first Spacelab mission to be flown out of the HOSC, Astro 1.
Everyone here in the Huntsville Operations Support Center is really excited, and we're looking forward to a great 10-day mission and a lot of really terrific astronomy, and we got a lot of smiles. Everything's going really, really well.
A unique astronomy mission using Spacelab's palette configuration. It enabled 3 ultraviolet instruments and an X-ray telescope to explore the universe. Ultimately, it was a tremendously successful mission. But Astro 1 made the team in the HOSC really work for their success.
The Spacelab computers failed due to overheating of the computers. And so we had no way to control the instruments on board using the computers. And so the only thing we had available was the instruments themselves and the scientists down here looking at the instruments to show where it was pointing. So we take that data and tell the crew on board to move the telescope either up or down or left or right.
That was great. We were holding it pretty tight.
22 Spacelab missions were managed successfully from the HOSC Payload Operations Control Center. This is where the Spacelab science teams came to conduct their science in space.
We recognize the principal investigators and the payload crew as customers, and we treated them as customers, and we met their requirements, and we did it cost effectively.
As a Spacelab crew member, we communicated daily with the Payload Operations Center, which was in the HOSC. and it was just a wonderful group of people and a great mix of internationals and scientists and engineers and operators, and our backup payload specialists were the people we actually communicated with.
A key aspect of the design for the Space Lab program, and the Marshall POC in particular, was its focus on satisfying the needs of its scientific users while still maintaining the system integrity and safety required for manned spaceflight. Thus, the Marshall POC contained a large science operations area where the investigators could bring their support teams and equipment and have full access to mission communications and data.
One of the things that we did is we came up with a smart floor concept where basically we had patch panels that were located on the raised floor. So without the patch panels, what you had to do was get into putting a lot of cables. So that saved tons and tons of man hours by evolving and going to a concept like that.
As the Space Lab missions were being conducted, it was recognized that requiring whole science teams to relocate to the POC for a mission, including preparation and simulations, was a considerable burden. So the HOSC began to provide capabilities for science teams to operate remotely from the POC, obtaining their data, communicating with the flight crew and POC staff, and sending commands from their own home facilities.
We started off Space Lab support out of the HOSC with everybody being in the building. By the time we finished flying Space Labs, practically nobody was in the building from a user perspective.